keeping them safe and holding boundaries because they are just wired to test us, to push boundaries, to push limits.
You want your toddler to know that all feelings are safe feelings and that they can come to you with any.
And it's not a problem that needs to be fixed. It's probably not the banana you've peeled incorrectly.
It's not that.
That's ended them in a puddle on the floor, screaming and kicking and trying to hit you.
Their goal is not to make our life hard.
Yeah.
Their goal is to learn and explore and connect.
Ngala acknowledges Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples as the traditional custodians of Australia and pay our respects to elders past and present in the spirit of reconciliation. We acknowledge the importance of children being raised with connection to culture, community and family.
Hi, Jen.
Hi, Hannah.
Welcome to Parenting with Ngala. Today we've got Beth, who's talking to us about some of the challenges around parenting toddlers. So we've had Beth on the podcast before, but why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
So thank you for having me.
Yeah.
I'm a registered nurse and I work on the Parenting Line, and I have a background in perinatal and infant mental health. And I also work in a mental health unit helping mums adjust to parenting.
Amazing. Thanks for coming back.
Thank you. And I'm a mum. I'm a mum of 2 children who are out of the toddler phase.
Okay.
But I do remember it fondly.
Fondly?
I actually love toddlers.
Yeah.
I do. They're fun.
They're so funny.
They're good fun. I feel like you get out of that. I found babyhood really hard and I found my rhythm with parenting with toddlers.
Yeah.
That's a really nice thing to say as well, because I think sometimes we parents might dread that toddler kind of era, but like to hear that reflection to say that actually babies were trickier for you and toddlers you found.
Yeah. They were good fun.
Good fun.
Yeah.
So let's get into it. What are some positive ways to parent toddlers? What are some challenges? Where do we start?
So I think with toddlers, it's finding that balance with having fun with them, delighting in them, giving them the freedom to explore the world, experience the world, but keeping them safe and holding boundaries because they are just wired to test us, to push boundaries, to push limits, and they're experiencing the world for the first time as well. And so they're learning, and we've got to kind of, as a parent, find the balance between holding all those things.
Yeah, the happy medium.
Yeah.
Warm boundaries.
Warm boundaries. Yes.
Yeah. So development in toddler years is a lot of physical development. We see a lot of climbing, we see a lot of running, we see a lot of falling, and then the language development that comes with it as well. So we have to keep this in mind when we're parenting toddlers as well, don't we?
Yeah, yes, because they're experiencing these skills for the first time. So they're learning how their body moves, how their emotions impact their body, experiencing new feelings, having big feelings and how that might influence what they want to do. So they start hitting or they start running away.
Frustrations with speech. You know, that they want to understand what words mean. They may be asking, what does that mean? Why? And also then trying to get words out but maybe not always being understood, and that leads to frustrations as well.
Yes, and not being able to do things both from a physical perspective, they want to be up at our level and they're not because they're physically smaller, but also maybe it's not safe for them.
It's that balance. It's going, okay, where's my toddler at with their capabilities? So what are they actually showing me that they can do? But also they're still little ones. Like what are their vulnerabilities? And again, I've mentioned this before, balancing, like sometimes we can overestimate vulnerabilities and underestimate capacity, or sometimes we can overestimate their capacity and we think, oh, why can't you just do it? Why is this so hard for you? And we forget that actually there's vulnerabilities there, and we've got to kind of balance and toe the line between those two.
Yeah. And I think sometimes it can look different when you're parenting your first child versus subsequent children. So for your first, you often want to kind of keep them quite protected because you don't know maybe how resilient they are or how capable they are. And then the second one comes along and not that you're negligent.
but you overestimate maybe the capacity.
And they're just forced to be a little bit more independent because you've also got another child. So it can also look different depending on what number child you're parenting.
Yeah, and also where you feel comfortable too. Some people, if we think about that circle of security, some people feel more comfortable when their child is on the outer edge of the circle, exploring, going out. And some people feel more comfortable when their child's coming in, like, help me organise my feelings.
Yes.
And so as parents, we might feel more at ease on one side of the circle than the other. And again, this is all about reflection. And if there's anyone listening that doesn't know what the circle of security is, there's lots of beautiful free resources on their website. It's a parenting framework and program that's you can often do freely in the community, but you can also get a lot of free content on their website too.
So, Beth, what are some effective parenting strategies at this time?
I think it would be trying to look at it through a positive lens as much as you can. So lots of praise, lots of positive reinforcement, because it can sometimes feel like, and this probably happens a lot through as children get older, it can feel that you're pulling them up on all the things they're doing wrong constantly. Because some days it can feel like that. Some days they're just pushing your buttons, or
they've spilt the milk and the cereal.
Yeah, and they're having a tantrum, and you've maybe got another child that's also doing, the same things. And so it can feel like you're constantly pulling them up on things or trying to, enforce boundaries and consequences. So when you can, highlighting the positive and praise that positive reinforcement, like, wow, I really loved how you drew that picture, or how you shared with your sibling, or how you walked next to me at the shops, or and trying to, reinforce that positive behaviour that they might be doing.
Giving lots of focus and attention to the behaviour that we want to see, because we know that most children love their parents' connection and attention. That's often the highest currency thing for them. Like when we're talking about reinforcement, we're not necessarily always talking about a sticker chart or a treat or something like that, but actually realising that your attention, praise, delight has so much power for your toddler in their little sense of well-being and sense of achievement. And if we want certain things to grow, then certain behaviours to grow, then we want to make sure we're praising them and that we're giving attention to them. And if we notice that we've had a day where we've done lots of corrections, maybe feel like we're, sort of saying, no, don't stop, all of those sorts of things, we probably have given more of our social attention to those things that we are trying actually to correct. And sometimes with some toddlers, they don't know the difference. So they're just going, hey, this is the way that I get mum to come back to me, to draw me in. And then that's where we can get in this bit of a struggle where we go, actually, the more I'm correcting them, the more that I'm trying to implement and hold this boundary, the more that they're doing the thing that I don't want them to do.
Yes.
And I would say in that moment that's a good reflection to say, okay, have I had opportunities today, even really small ones, or can I find opportunities tomorrow to give social praise, social encouragement, even just description of those wonderful things that they're doing so that we can start to shift that pendulum so that behaviour starts growing and we can turn down the stuff that we don't want to see as much. The throwing.
We know that behaviours are just usually from an unmet need.
Yep.
And so communication, if they can't get something across, it's going to come out in a behaviour. Yeah. And so it's about thinking, okay, what's actually going on for this little person right in this moment? Why is this behaviour coming out?
Yeah.
They're not usually doing it to get to us. It might feel like they are, but they're not usually.
Their goal is not to make our life hard. Their goal is to learn and explore and connect. And so there's a good chance their behaviour is trying to do that in some way.
So you also want to encourage independence. I think.
Yeah, which is what we were touching on before about finding that balance between their actual capabilities and keeping them safe, because they want to try new things, and it can feel really empowering for them to let them do new things.
Yeah.
And so, again, finding the balance between what's safe, what's risky enough that will let them explore the world, and what's going to give them that sense of independence.
Yeah, and a playground is a great example of that. There might be a really big slide and you see that toddler kind of going you can see that they really want to try it, but they also feel a bit worried about maybe going up that high. They're going to look to their caregiver. They're going to look to see how you're responding. And if you're responding with, I feel worried about that too, then they're going to maybe be a little bit more cautious. They're going to perhaps stay closer. And
depending on the toddler.
Or they might go a challenge.
She doesn't want me to do it. I'm going to do it.
So again, it's all about reflecting. You are a unique being as a parent and your toddler is a unique being as their own little person. So that interaction, reflecting, going, okay, you know, what is this situation bringing up in me and what is it maybe bringing up in my toddler? And, you know, am I supporting that exploration at the just right challenge, which is something I love to say.
You do love mentioning that, yes. Yeah.
So big feelings.
Yes, big feelings.
They happen a lot with toddlers.
A lot.
Yeah. What are we talking about? What is that?
Well, like we said before, big feelings, they're going to come out in behaviours majority of the time. So a toddler might feel a big feeling and then lash out because they don't know what this feeling is in their body. You know, it doesn't feel nice to feel angry, frustrated, hurt, sad. And so, yeah, toddlers feel these things all the time, and usually in toddlerhood it's when they're feeling them for the first time.
There also can be that just like emotional flood that you see in a toddler where, you know, they're just overwhelmed by this like wave of emotion, and that's when you just might see them going all red and crying. They might throw their body on the ground, they're total flop, flailing, you know, and they're really just their whole body's experiencing that emotion really quite intensely. And sometimes, you know, again, if we are thinking about it, it's like, well, is it this moment that's contributed to it, or was this moment actually just the tip of the eye, like the kind of the thing that tipped us over the edge? Maybe we've got a child that didn't nap well today, having a late lunch, you know, something else that we've had to leave, you know, before they're ready and we haven't been able to give them adequate warning. So often there's this accumulative effect as well when it comes to these feelings. And I think sometimes we can see patterns, like times of the day or certain routines where we're more likely to see our toddler sort of fall apart in this way. And that can be useful, can't it, to reflect on?
Yeah, it's probably not the banana you've peeled incorrectly.
It's not that.
That's ended them in a puddle on the floor, screaming and kicking and trying to hit you. It's maybe looking back and going, what has happened during the day? And maybe you've had a day where you've had to hold a boundary quite firmly multiple times, or they haven't got what they wanted when you're out at the shops, or they've had not enough sleep, and then that banana being peeled incorrectly has just sent them off the edge.
It's like the iceberg, the tip of the iceberg, isn't it?
Yeah.
And how can a parent help their toddler in those moments?
At the end of the day, their feelings are valid.
Yes.
And so it's helpful to validate that feeling and label that feeling. And you don't have to feel like you have to narrate the tantrum, like constantly interjecting with like, oh, you're feeling really sad, you're feeling really frustrated, but just giving it like a really warm presence and a label to that experience that they're feeling. And then depending on what the reason is, then would maybe guide where you go with that. So staying, you know, often toddlers don't know what they need in that time, and there's no point trying to rationalise with them or reason with them because they have no access to rational thinking in that moment. They've flipped the lid and they're activating that really like emotional part of their brain, and they've got no way to get out of that except sometimes time and being around someone who's going to help them co-regulate. So being that kind, calm presence in their general kind of sphere.
Yeah.
Not kind of pushing hugs on them or not trying to fix the emotion, but just being there to help them either co-regulate and then help them connect when they're ready.
Yeah, I love that. I think if we can name it, we can tame it. Yeah. So that's kind of where we go, helping them to name it. And you might say, oh, you look like you're feeling really angry, and they'll go, no, I'm not.
Yes.
And so that's okay as well. You let them do that. Mummy's here if you need a hug, whenever you're ready. Being in the vicinity and lending them your calm. Like you said, co-regulating is really, even if you don't feel calm. And it's really hard to stay calm in those moments when your toddler is really kicking off. But just remembering as well that a dysregulated adult can't regulate a toddler.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, self-regulate before co-regulate.
Yeah, absolutely. Fake it till you make it as well. I love to say that.
So, Beth, we've talked about when a tantrum's happening, the importance of self-regulation within ourselves as a parent, the importance of, you know, naming to tame, but not overloading that toddler with a lot of language, because that sort of top part of the brain, that thinking part of the brain, is still developing in toddlers, but also anything that has developed has gone offline in this emotional moment. I guess the thing is then, you know, once we've kind of managed to sort of dial our toddler down, or maybe we've kind of shifted out of that really heightened peak of that tantrum. What can parents be doing in that space? Because sometimes it can be easy to fire back up as well, can't it?
Yeah. You just tread very carefully. Yes. Very slow movements.
No
sudden movements. Yeah. I think it's seeking and providing that connection with whatever that might look like for that particular toddler. And so there'll be some toddlers who will want to come in and hug their mum and just sit there. There will be some that will want to go straight back into play, and then you can delight in them with a play or game, going outside, getting some fresh air, changing the environment. It can also be helpful to when they're on that way down, you've got to think their nervous system is going to be really frazzled. They are going to be probably ready to kick off again. And so sort of thinking, how can we help regulate them more? And then that kind of leans into sensory preferences. And we all have them as humans. And so maybe thinking what helps my child from a sensory perspective that will help regulate their nervous system. So, for example, I had one child that loved slime, loved Play-Doh, and I always found that helpful at the end of the day to have an activity set up like that where she could, use her hands, feel those things. But if I'd given that to my son, that would have absolutely wigged him out.
Yeah,
like he would have hated it.
Yeah.
Whereas he loved physical play, like rough and tumble, swinging, jumping, all that sort of thing. So thinking about from a sensory perspective, what's going to help your child regulate. So both you being there and co-regulating, but then something that maybe is going to help them and giving them tools as well. So sort of showing them, after we feel these big feelings, what can we do that's going to help ourselves?
Yeah. And sometimes it can be really small. Like a sensory experience can be taking a sip of cold water, right? That in itself can be a little bit of like a reset, and that's one thing. Let's find your drink bottle. Let's have a drink. I'm going to have a drink too. So modelling that it's almost like a layering, that there's a couple of different things. I'm going to take a deep breath, or we can say like, I'm going to pretend I'm going to smell or go outside, smell a flower. So if you've got some rosemary or something like that, let's go smell those flowers outside. So we can have a sensory experience through all of our senses, smell, taste, touch, movement. And there will be some things that are going to be more calming and soothing to your child than others, and some things that might be more alerting. But again, you know your child best, and you naturally will probably get an idea of what helps them, as you did, as you mentioned with your two children.
I think it's very easy in those moments as well to want to redirect, so kind of distract. And I want to be really kind to parents and be like, that's actually okay if you need to do that for yourself in those moments. But the best thing that you can do, if you have the capacity, is to sit with your child in the discomfort and sit through the whole process, even though it might be uncomfortable for you.
And it's that shift between our goal is distraction versus our goal here is connection and engagement.
Yes.
So we might be supporting our child to engage in something else, which, on the surface could look like distraction, but it's kind of done in a way that's got some reflection built into it.
Yeah.
It's not just with the goal of I need to turn this behaviour off as quickly as possible because I'm not coping with it.
Yeah. You want your toddler to know that all feelings are safe feelings and that they can come to you with any.
And it's not a problem that needs to be fixed.
Yeah.
And so I think that's sometimes what parents can fall into, is thinking my toddler's having a tantrum, I need to fix this emotion.
Yeah.
And particularly if it's around establishing a boundary and that you've held a boundary and then they've had a big feeling as a response to that, that's not something you need to fix.
No.
Yeah, you're not going to change your boundary.
They're allowed to feel angry. They're allowed to feel frustrated. And we just give them space to feel that, again, in that sphere, that we stay in their sphere so they know that we're okay with that big feeling.
That's right.
And then we're going to help them co-regulate.
Yep. And that's the warm boundary compared to like a cold boundary, which is you do what I say because I said it. Not I'm having this is a boundary. You can feel however you like about it. I'm here for you when you're ready.
Yeah.
And our risk of that sort of cold boundary is that we get into a power struggle.
Yeah.
And perhaps then we start holding boundaries that actually don't line up with what ultimately is the big picture important.
Yeah.
So it might be nice to talk a little bit about establishing boundaries and what that means in a family context and with a young toddler.
So I think it's going to be individual for every family because there's going to be certain things that align with your parenting and your family values. a big thing might be like screen time or, risky play or things like that. So you've got to pick your boundaries or decide your boundaries that align with your parenting style and your family values, keeping in mind what's realistic for a toddler.
Yes.
And what's a realistic expectation of them. And so having some really simple age-appropriate boundaries and being predictable with your response when those boundaries are broken. So, for example, hitting. That's probably a boundary that most parents would say is not acceptable. And so if you see your toddler hitting, it's a boundary that you will probably predictably always enforce. So whenever a toddler goes to hit, whether it be, out of frustration, all those feelings that they're having, that's a boundary that you've decided to enforce. And so a predictable response around that.
And that's also not saying that they can't have that feeling. It's the behaviour that's linked to it.
Yes.
And so, being very kind of clear with that. You can feel angry and frustrated, but we're not going to be hitting.
Yeah.
And then our toddler says, why? And that's tricky. That's tricky because suddenly we go, why? Well, because it's not okay. And again, preparation can sometimes be useful. And I always think it's useful if we think, okay, link it to your family values, but actually then in age-appropriate way, explain your family values. In our family, we value safety.
Yeah.
And hitting can hurt other people, and that's not safe. So we build on this as our toddler. Like obviously that conversation's not going to be with an 18-month-old, but a 3-year-old, we might actually then be talking about, safety is something in our family that we value a lot, and how then we link that to risky play or how we link that to hitting or biting or something like that. And different families will value different things. You might have trust, safety, kindness, health. If you're a religious family, it might be faith, So, and those being kind of having language around that will then help you with those explanations when your toddler goes, but why? Why?
Yes.
Why? And then you don't have to think about it.
And then you don't end up on a long monologue about
because I said so.
Or about
and that's what we don't want to do, right? Is that kind of authoritarian.
Yes.
I am the boss because I am your parent. I think we've come a long way in looking at children as their own people and that they are as worthy of us as taking up space and not just because we're bigger than them.
Exactly. The nice thing about linking it with a value is that it's then not about, we're not kind of saying this is just mum doing it because I say so. It's because this is actually something that's important to us as a whole, as a family, and we are one. And that helps to create connection and unity as a family unit.
And it instills a sense of self in the toddler. Oh, this is my family and this is what we value. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, and then I suppose you can link it back to that positive reinforcement and positive praise. So when you see them doing things that might be kind. You might go, wow, that was really kind what you did to that, with that little kid at the playground, or that was really kind how you gave your baby brother a kiss on the head, and then reinforce those behaviours in a positive way.
Yeah.
And we start to then put language towards all these sort of abstract things, which is helping our little toddler brain work out, okay, this is what mum and dad mean when they say these things. And it kind of might seem a bit obvious to us to be always saying these things, but actually it's supporting learning. What's the difference between a boundary and discipline? Or we get brought up discipline a lot. And it's tricky. It's a tricky topic. Boundaries are things that are pre-established, right? That we've communicated with our toddlers, hopefully, that we're consistent with. And really, if we think about the word discipline, it means to teach. So if we're doing something with our toddler that's not teaching them anything, then we probably want to
change.
Shift away from it.
And I like to often say on the parenting line, there's a difference between consequences and punishment.
Yes.
And so a consequence is often linked and makes sense to what the behaviour has been.
Yes.
So if a child has gone and thrown a toy at another child or their sibling, a natural consequence would be, okay, it looks like you're really struggling to play with that toy, I'm going to take it away. Not, okay, you've thrown that toy, no TV for a week.
Yeah.
Yes.
that would be more of a punishment, because in their little head they're like, how do those two things connect?
Yeah. I'm not teaching anything in that
yeah.
moment. It's a sort of this arbitrary consequence that doesn't necessarily make sense to the toddler, and their brain doesn't have the capacity to link these two things.
Yeah.
But where if our child's, throwing a toy or using it in a way that, is not safe, we link it to our family value, and if they continue to push that boundary, we might say this needs to have a little break for a while.
Yeah.
Or we might try to redirect them in another way. Yeah. So that discipline word is coming from a teaching perspective as opposed to a punishment perspective.
Because they're just learning about the world for the first time,
Yeah.
Give them some grace. Give parents some grace as well.
Yes. Because there's not going to be times where we can do this all the time.
No.
There's going to be times when your child is at the playground and they're absolutely, they've flipped their lid, they're feeling all these feelings, and you don't have time to help co-regulate and give them space and label their emotions. Sometimes you've got to pick them up, tuck them under your arm and march back to the car.
Surfboard them back.
Yes.
Football hold.
Yeah, and then you shut the door and you go, I can't believe you did that.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
It is.
Yeah.
So it's kind of that, again, that good enough parenting. So when we've got the space, we've got the capacity, we've got time to try and do it as best we can. Yeah. Because there's going to be moments where we don't do it perfectly.
And what do we do if we don't do it perfectly?
We apologise.
We repair.
We wrap the
Repair.
big rupture and the big repair. Yeah.
It happens.
Yeah.
And what you're actually teaching your toddler is that they're worthy of you coming and apologising. What a great gift to give them.
You're also modelling how to apologise.
Yeah.
Taking responsibility, reflecting that what mum didn't want or dad didn't want to act that way in that time, and this is what I'm going to try to do next time. So we're modelling how to do an apology, because again, we might, our child might hit another child and you have to say sorry. And again, that's abstract. Even if they do say sorry, because I have to say this word sorry,
They don't
maybe
know what
not
it means.
actually understanding this within context or what this actually means to say sorry. So if you repair in that way and you're modelling that, you're teaching again, which is beautiful.
Yeah. And also showing them that mum and dad have big feelings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so
that not
everyone does.
gets it right all the time.
We all have moments where life feels really hard.
Yeah.
And so they realise that you're also human.
Yeah.
Reflecting can be hard though. It's like a muscle. Learning that reflective capacity or capability is hard.
I think as a parent, the one thing I try and remember is when I do have a rupture with my child is that the repair is the most important part. Yeah. And the repair is the chance for connection. And that's the bit that matters. So try not to dwell on the rupture, but look at the repair. How can I do this?
Yeah.
That's really important.
And I suppose if you're feeling like you're rupturing all the time, so you're you feeling like you're exploding more often than you're able to contain, then maybe that's time to look at how can we increase the parent's capacity. And is that having someone to talk to, working on their own mental health, what's their support system looking like, where are they going to be emotionally contained? And so if you feel like you're not being the parent you want, particularly in this toddlerhood, because they're pushing all these boundaries, they're constantly testing us from an emotional perspective, what can we do to support mum and dad and contain them?
Absolutely.
Yeah, because we don't want parents burning out.
No.
It's very easy.
And we don't want them constantly yelling at their toddlers and feeling like they're always erupting, because, again, it goes back to toddlers are really fun.
They are fun. They're
And
so
they
funny.
say such funny things.
Yeah, and it's really like a good opportunity to there can be some really fun moments of parenting.
Yeah.
And they notice things as well. Like if you've ever, walked down the street with a toddler, they are noticing like all sorts of stuff that we as an adult are not attuned to. And suddenly, if you can kind of get in their little head, you go, wow, that caterpillar, actually, if you've never seen a caterpillar like that or do that or even a caterpillar before at all, that is actually
That's amazing.
pretty cool.
It's going to turn into a butterfly. They live in a constant state of awe. Which is so wonderful. And
we want to delight in our children.
Yeah.
So, Beth, you were saying as well that if you feel like you're constantly erupting at your child, maybe it's time to have a look at the boundaries that you've put in place. Are they appropriate for this age, for this child?
Yeah. Because potentially they are not sustainable for you or for your child.
Yeah.
And maybe some of them aren't necessarily important at the moment.
It's okay to revisit them.
To reassess and to say, what are we actually going to let go of and what are we going to hold true to? Link it back to what you value in your family. And sometimes on certain days, depending on how you're going, depending on how your toddler's going, it's also okay to kind of reestablish a little bit. Okay, today's a day where, I've got a sick child and I'm sick. We're probably going to have more TV time.
Yeah.
But again, linking it, if your toddler starts then the next day going, well, why did we get this yesterday? We link it to, well, we had a sick day. When we're sick, we want to rest our bodies, and we rest our bodies by watching another movie yesterday.
Bluey on repeat.
Yeah. So, again, if we can link it to values and we're building and layering on that language, it can help us explain and make sense of things for toddlers in their little world, so we don't get in those power struggles. But they go, oh, okay, yeah, that does make sense.
Teaching moment.
Yeah, teaching moments. But if we are putting boundaries in place that we just can't sustain, it's not helpful for anyone.
No.
Yeah, we just end up feeling rotten ourselves, don't we?
Yeah, and it comes back to temperament of the child as well.
Yeah. You are the expert in your child.
Yeah. And so you've got a really confident, busy, full of energy child. It's probably going to be a lot more difficult to contain them all the time than a child who's maybe more, more sensitive, more introverted in terms of like those, say, at the park or something.
Yeah. The runners. Yeah.
The runners.
The runners versus the ones with the small circle.
Yeah. So thinking about meeting your child, what their, what's their temperament and what's their personality like, and how can we, again, encourage independence and encourage them to explore the world, but keeping boundaries.
So we've talked a lot today about big feelings, emotions, tantrums, setting boundaries. There are times, though, that are often kind of thought of as a little bit harder, maybe when we have to transition a toddler or maybe when a toddler has to wait. Are there things that we can do to sort of support and hopefully maybe even prevent kind of those big emotions happening at those times?
So in terms of transition, I think warning is helpful. So predicting that a toddler will find a transition difficult. So going into that transition as an adult going, okay, there might be some big feelings.
Preparing.
And giving them a warning. So if the TV's, we're watching one TV show, the TV show's got 2 minutes to go, we're turning the TV show off after this. Or we're playing blocks right now, but in 10 minutes or, once we finish building this tower, we're moving into dinner. We're going to wash our hands and have dinner. So lots of warning.
Yeah.
And then expecting them to have a bit of pushback can be good. And then also in terms of, you're talking about waiting or having, for example, being in the doctors, going to the doctors. You watch all these adults sitting there on their phones, but then we expect our toddlers to sit there and wait and do nothing. So what's realistic of them? So doing things like bringing books, bringing puzzles, keeping them engaged.
You might need something novel as well, maybe it's something that they haven't seen before. So you might have a little kind of pack of things you go, this is, particularly if we've got lots of doctor's appointments, potentially you've got a toddler, you might be pregnant with your second child and be having to wait for a midwife appointment or something where you don't know how long you're going to have to wait. Be prepared for that. Have your little bag of like novelty things maybe they haven't seen before, maybe some squishies or something interesting. That can hold a lot of value for that toddler and it also can buy you that extra, couple of minutes before you kind of have to go into that appointment, which can be useful too. We can do that with snacks as well.
Yeah.
There might be, it doesn't necessarily have to be treat food, but just different, like, maybe a different type of snack or a different lunchbox or something novelty can go a long way with toddlers.
And then also visually timers can be helpful.
Yeah.
Because I did say before, in 10 minutes, but that kind of means nothing to them.
Yeah.
What's 10 minutes? And my kids used to say, is it a long 10 minutes or a short 10 minutes? Because, you flippantly say, in 10 minutes we're going to be heading out the door. But sometimes that's 1 minute, sometimes that's 30 minutes.
Yeah.
So a visual timer can be helpful for, like one of those sound timers.
Yeah.
Can be helpful for maybe older toddlers to kind of visualise time. And so maybe they've got before bed, they've got 15 minutes of playing with that sound timer.
Yep.
And that might help the transition because then they can visually see, okay, the sound's out.
Yep.
I've got to start getting ready for bed.
Yeah, absolutely. Or again, linking it with the next thing that's happening as well, or linking it with a routine. It's getting dark outside. After we are playing, we're then having dinner. So we're kind of making it make sense for them as well. It can be useful.
And get them involved. Let's flip the sand timer so they're really aware of it.
And they're setting it themselves.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Well, I think we've touched on toddlers a lot today in terms of how they can be really hard to manage at certain times. But I think it is really important to go back to the positive of how funny and sweet and lovely toddlers can be and really delight in those moments with them, because you do get a lot of tough moments with toddlers. So really enjoy the other moments that you do get of joy.
Thank you, Beth, so much for talking to us today.
Thanks for having me
And
again.
I'm sure
Thanks for coming back.
I'm sure we'll be seeing a lot more of you in the future.
Maybe.
I hope so.
Who knows?
Thanks for listening to Parenting with Ngala. The topics covered in our podcast are general in nature and the information might not suit everyone. If you're in Western Australia and would like to chat about a specific challenge, you can talk directly to the Ngala Parenting Line by calling 9368 9368. For all other links and resources, check out the Ngala website and the show notes below. Thank you again and see you next time.